Floor to Mr. Eli David.
Doy la palabra al señor
I give the floor to Mr. Eli David.
Mr. President, members of the Security Council, distinguished delegates, my name is Eli David, and I am speaking before you today not as a politician or a diplomat, but as a brother. My younger brother, Eviatar David, along with Guy Gilboa Dalal and 48 other hostages, are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. Eviatar is the kindest person I know. I learned from him how to be a better son. He is shy, but full of life. He has the soul of a musician. He has played the guitar since he was 10, and we play together every week. I miss his smile, and I miss his hug, and I just want to see him hug my parents. Eviatar was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. At the age of 22, he went there to celebrate life, to dance, to enjoy the music he loves. Music is a very big part of who he is. Since that day, my brother and the other hostages have endured an unimaginable nightmare. This is not just a figure of speech. Their lives are truly hanging by a thread. We now know from medical reports and other indications that Eviatar, Guy, and the others are the brink of death. They may only have days left to live. Days. That is how urgent that is. They have each lost nearly half of their body weight. My little brother now weighs only around 40 kilograms. That's just around 90 pounds. Please see this picture of me and my siblings. This is me right here. This is me. My younger sister. This is Eviatar. Look at his smile. The world has heard about the atrocities of Hamas, of October 7th, and in the 22 months since. But what is happening to Eviatar and Guy is an act of calculated and depraved cruelty that defies human comprehension. We have heard the testimonies from those who were released from Hamas tunnels. And every account makes our fears worse. When your brother, your son, your father, your partner is being held in Gaza, there is never good news. The only thing you can hold on to is that they might still be alive. But even that hope is fading, because the truth is, we don't know how much time they have left. 5 months ago, on February 22nd, we received what we thought at the time was the cruelest possible emotional torment to Eviatar. In February, after 500 days in captivity, Hamas broadcasted Eviatar and Guy. They were brought out of the tunnels. Hamas forced them to watch their fellow captives being released. Then, Eviatar and Guy were sent back into the dark tunnels. You could see clearly Guy here, right here, and this is Eviatar. We thought at the time that this was the pinnacle of evil. But then, just this past weekend, we received a new video from hell. We were reminded just how much more cruel and inhumane Hamas and its sick partners are. My brother was a living skeleton, barely the strength to move or speak, his voice barely recognizable. In that video, my little brother was forced to speak to the world and then actively began to dig his own grave inside a filthy, dark tunnel in Gaza. My mother and I could not even bring ourselves to watch it. We knew that if we did, we would be unable to function. My father and sister, however, felt they had to see him, to hear his voice, to feel him somehow. Now those images haunt them. My father cannot sleep, and my mother has not stopped crying ever since. What would you do? If, God forbid, it was your son, brother, partner, father. We are here because we and the other hostage families cannot wait any longer. We need to reunite with them, to hug them, and to feel them close. There are still fathers whose children are waiting for their return. We are all waiting for everyone's return. For us, the mission is very clear and urgent. We must save Evyatar's life and the life of his friend Guy. We must ensure that all hostages are being released immediately and unconditionally. We don't have more time. They don't have more time. And every minute counts. The last video also exposed another horrifying truth. As my younger brother, a living skeleton, was forced to speak and dig his future grave, you can see the chubby and well-fed hand of Hamas terrorists enter into the frame. This is the hand of his captor, and this is my brother. You can see the hand is even thicker than his leg, than my brother's leg. Suddenly, Hamas confirmed what we have known for months. The terrorists have plenty of food. The only ones starving in Hamas tunnels are the hostages, my brother, Guy, and the 48 others. According to testimonies, we know that the terrorists are in a room nearby, not in the filthy dungeon where Evyatar and Guy are held. They are choosing to starve them as part of a sick and twisted propaganda campaign. They use them and starve them as a weapon of war. Survivors of captivity, including Tal Shoham and Omer Venkert, were held in the same space with my brother Evyatar and his friend Guy, testified to this. They told us that the terrorists always had plenty of food nearby and would even relish it loudly, while the hostages had none. It is all part of a calculated plan to torture the hostages, starve them, break their spirit, both psychologically and physically. This is a humanitarian crisis, the one of the hostages, that is being discussed here. Not here in the Security Council, and not in the other UN forums. The very soul of humanity is being scarred by Hamas's barbaric actions. We, the family of Evyatar, refuse to give up hope. We are weeping and suffering, but we are also fighting with every fiber of our being. We will not give up until we see him back home, until my mother and father can hug him again. I'm here to make a direct and urgent call to this esteemed body. First, we must demand the immediate unconditional release of Evyatar David, Guy Gilboa Dalal, and all the other hostages, living and deceased. Not only demand, but put every leverage we can to do so. The time for deliberation has run out. Their lives depend on immediate action. Eviatar Guy and the very least 18 other hostages are still alive. After 660 days, they have somehow managed to survive. And we call on you to rescue them from Hamas dungeons underground. Second, we must call for humanitarian aid to reach the hostages. While aid flows into Gaza to help the population, the hostages are being denied even the most basic necessities of life. They haven't received a shred of humanitarian aid since they were captive. This is a flagrant violation of international law. And third, we must recognize that this is a matter of life and death, requiring urgent medical intervention. Eviatar and Guy need immediate access to proper food and life-saving medical care. Every moment of delay is a step closer to a final tragic outcome. We all have responsibility. To the leaders of the world, to every member of this council, and to the global community, your silence is the face of this monstrous cruelty, is complicity. I urge you, do not let them die. We don't have time. Do not let them spend another minute in darkness, suffering beyond imagination. While we do our part, demanding from the Israeli government to do everything to save the hostages, all leaders should unite to pressure Hamas and its partners. Act now before it's too late. Save Eviatar David. Bring my little brother home. Thank you.
Agradezco.
I thank Mr. David for his briefing. I will now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We heard the heartbreaking testimony of Eli, brother of the hostage Eviatar David, starved by Hamas. I want to thank the US and other countries for answering our call. Thank you for convening this urgent and important meeting of the UN Security Council. But we also heard here so many lies. I cannot refer to them all, but it was really funny to hear Russian Federation representative after 3 years and a half of a brutal invasion and brutal war in Ukraine and bombardments on civilian population in Kiev and other places speaking here, the way he spoke. I also heard the Palestinian representative. I must say the Palestinians learned propaganda from you, from the Soviet era, and you were good teachers. The Palestinians invented terrorism as a way to promote their means, and it includes all Palestinian fractions. And until this very day, the Palestinian Authority continued to pay salaries to terrorists and terrorist families accordingly to the crime the terrorists committed. And this is how they encourage terrorism until this very day. You spoke about peace. From 1947, you had countless opportunities to reach peace. You rejected them all. I come here today as the Foreign Minister of the State of Israel, the sovereign state of the Jewish people, fighting for its existence for almost 2 years on 7 different fronts. I'm here today because our hostages are still there, starved, tortured by Hamas and Islamic Jihad in the dungeons of of Gaza. On October 7th, Hamas invaded, with no reason, into Israel. It committed evil crimes like the Nazis and ISIS did. They murdered and raped women, killed children in front of their parents, and parents in front of their children. They beheaded people, burned whole families alive, took 251 hostages into cruel captivity. 50 of them are still there, starved and tortured. I want to read from the Dina Project report. This report describes Hamas' sickening sexual crimes and atrocities committed on October 7th. And since then, bodies were found with objects inserted into their private parts. Bodies of naked women were found cuffed onto trees. Bodies were found with signs of genital mutilation. Most of the sexually assaulted women were among the 1,166 murdered of that day. After they were raped, they were murdered. They are forever silenced. But sexual violence continued for those taken in captivity. Amit Susana was released from Hamas' cruel captivity. She described bravely how she was forced at gunpoint to commit a sexual act on her capture. This is the pure evil that Israel faces. Hamas crimes are still ongoing. This past weekend, the whole world witnessed the cruel starvation of Eviatar David and Ron Braslavsky, tortured at the hands of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The world saw their terrible condition, bones standing out in their skin like living skeletons, looking death in their eye. Eviatar was forced to dig his own grave. You just heard his brother, Eli. Hamas and Islamic Jihad used the starvation and torture of hostages as evil tools. It's part of a deliberate and well-planned sadistic propaganda campaign. Its goals: 1, psychological terror. 2nd, an attempt to create a link between our starved hostages and their blood libel against Israel. But it's a campaign of lies. Israel facilitated huge amounts of aid into Gaza since the beginning of the war. In an unprecedented way in the history of wars. And by the way, the quantities are growing every day, if you follow that. Yet it is still accused of starvation. But the truth must be told. Hamas sadistically starves our hostages while the terrorists enjoy meat, fish, and vegetables. And we saw the brother of Eviatar demonstrated that with the photo of the well-fed terrorist with Eviatar in his terrible condition. And you all saw the thick, meaty arm of the well-fed terrorist next to Eviatar, the living skeleton forced to dig his own grave. We facilitating huge amounts of aid into Gaza. No other country acts this way in war, on such a large scale, under such difficult circumstances. But Hamas loots the aid and uses it as a financial tool. We hadn't heard a word about that from the Palestinian representative. The distorted Hamas terrorists cruelly decide if and what the hostages will eat, mainly what they will not eat. Eviatar spoke of entire days when he did not eat at all. Our sick and starved hostages still have not seen representatives of the Red Cross until today, despite this being explicitly agreed upon in the hostage deal in November 2023. The medicine they desperately need to survive has not reached them. While the terrorists, the murderers being held in Israeli prisons receive medical care and nutrition, Hamas and Islamic Jihad torture our hostages. Terror states and organizations kidnapping civilians is not just our problem. But Hamas did it on a huge scale on October 7th. These terror states and organizations do so in order to ensure their own survival and interests. Terrorists inhumanely kidnap innocent civilians as tools to achieve their goals. In the case of Hamas, they try to force upon us their conditions remaining in power in Gaza. And don't illude yourself. They don't care that someone else will take responsibility on civilian issues, taking care of the ruins they left behind in Gaza. They want to stay the strongest military force to continue their war against Israel and its civilians. This dangerous phenomenon could happen tomorrow anywhere in the world. The world must put an end to the kidnapping of civilians. The international community must take it not worthwhile for the terrorists. Today it's Israel, tomorrow it's you. The world has been turned upside down. While Hamas runs its propaganda machine, a huge part of the international media is both ignoring the truth and buying its lies. I read the New York Times the day after Hamas released the distorted video of Aviatar David. I looked, but could not find Aviatar on the front page. And then I couldn't find his picture in all of the paper. I call on the international media. Put Aviatar and Rome front and center. Is this not newsworthy? We are witnessing an upside-down world. We are witnessing the twisted anti-Israeli agenda of so much of the global media. They shift the responsibility from the kidnappers and rapists to the attacked country. They shift the blame from terrorists to the victims. Instead of standing by Israel, we are blaming the victims of an attack from 7 different fronts. And I ask here at the United Nations Security Council, do you know what Secretary General Guterres tweeted after the horrible images of Aviatar and Rome were released? Not a word. Deafening silence. Yet we all see his endless and obsessive tweets against Israel, time and again. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are witnessing today is the rise of psychotic anti-Semitism around the world, flamed by modern blood libels like darkest days in history. Jews are hunted around the world simply because they are Jews. In Melbourne, in Amsterdam, in Paris. But it is not the only war on earth, but it's the only case. People are being hunted everywhere because of their nationality. Do you know of another nation fighting for its life and suffering around the world from hostility and violence? We are living in an upside-down world, a world in which Israel is put on a bench of the accused while it fights for its survival. There is a name for it. It's called anti-Semitism. 80 years after the end of the Holocaust, anti-Semitism is having its golden age once again. There are countries that acted, even in this building, to pressure Israel instead of Hamas during sensitive days in the negotiations. They directly contributed to the assassination of the chances to reach a hostage deal and ceasefire. They prolonged this war. This is what they did. So now let us ask the simplest questions. Who initiated the war on October 7th? Who is responsible for its continuation, for the endless suffering? There is only one clear answer: Hamas. Hamas invaded Israel and committed the October 7 atrocities. Hamas still refuses to release the starving hostages from its dungeons. Hamas still refuses to lay down its arms. The call on Hamas to release our hostages must be front and center on the world stage. It must not stop until they are all come home. Mr. President, we call for the immediate and unconditional release of our hostages. We call on the UN Security Council to finally condemn Hamas for its evil crimes, to hold it responsible, and to demand the immediate release of all our hostages. Thank you.